Hi guys, I'm Rocky, this is Buzz.
What's up,
and
yo?
Today, welcome to our podcast. We get inundated with questions on our Instagram, Facebook, maybe even WhatsApp, with some people that have our numbers, generally asking us questions about our lives, what we do, how we met, what the relationship is, what we're doing to our cars, what's next and whatnot. So yeah, welcome to our podcast, first time ever.
Sick, yo. Right, so let's get cracking. One of the first questions that a lot of people have been asking is, how did me and Rocky meet? So
It's actually quite a good story.
it is. I'll start off the beginning, and then we'll just see what happens. So set back probably 6 years ago now? How long ago do you reckon?
No, it's 2013, so 8 years ago.
2013? Okay, wow. So 2013.
I'll ask you how I remember that date, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I remembered it, and I'll tell you in a second.
He's got it tattooed on his wrist. He hasn't really. So I was on my way to Newcastle. I'm on GTR. At this point, I had a Nissan GTR. It was running 650 horsepower. And I happened to blow my first ever engine. And there's a theme going on here, which we'll probably cover another time. So anyway, I blown my engine. And I remember getting onto a Facebook group called Battalion 35. And posting there, hey guys, I blown my engine, really upset, don't know what to do. And suddenly I get a message notification from a Rocky battle. And what did you actually say there when you opened up to me?
I think you might have it a little bit confused. I've got a different version here. I think when I first bought my GTR, the car scene wasn't really as advanced as it is today. There wasn't very many Facebook groups or whatever have you, and WhatsApp chats. From what I remember, Buzz might correct me here, Buzz had an engine failure. Well, he was on the motorway M6. And when I bought my GTR, there was literally zero research I'd done. And there was one place on the internet which was quite well known as the Blue Forum, the GTR Register. Mm-hmm. And we'd scroll through there with questions, and Buzz made a post on that Blue Register from the motorway side. And I just happened to be at home in the evening reading it, saying that he just had a massive engine failure and he was trying to get hold of some help of recovery.
That's actually true. So you know what the crazy thing is like, I don't forget anything. That's really weird, but I did actually forget that. So he's right. I posted on this Blue Forum asking for help.
Correct, yeah. So he was, I think, if I remember correctly now, you would try to reach out to your tuner, and you're like, I can't get hold of anyone. This is what's happened to my car. Does anybody know what's wrong? Like, is it something, because we all would like to think it's nothing catastrophic. And then I reached out to Buzz. I messaged him back on the forum, and I said to him, is everything all right, bro? Why did I reach out to him? I was in a bit of an alien land, and GTRs, there wasn't a massive community that was close to me, so the forum was everything back then. So I thought his username, Buzzy Singh. I thought, yeah, he's one of us, right? So he must be a traditional guy, very religious, very calm. So
wearing a turban.
Yeah, and he's stranded on the motorway somewhere. So let me reach out to him, and literally, I just messaged you saying, bro, yeah, I've spoken to someone for you. I can't remember the exact detail.
Yeah.
The reason why I remember it was 2013.
You had their number. You had their mobile number. I didn't have the mobile number.
Correct. This was it. Yeah. The reason why I remember it was 2013, which just come back to now, is because I still used to use the Blue Forum. And after that, you mentioned Battalion 35. That was formed straight after that, which was more taking the car scene onto Facebook and the modern era. But that's how we actually met. And then we got talking about your car and your failure. But I want to rewind back slightly. I used to use a company called Severn Valley Motorsport, good friends of ours even today. And I used to take my car there to get serviced and whatnot. And there was a chap there, which I won't speak too much about him, called Amma. And I was sitting in the office one day whilst my car was getting serviced. And Amma just walks up and says to me, hey, Rocky, do you know this guy called Buzzy Singh? And I was like, I've read his name in the forums. I don't really know him. And he said, he's in the same trade as you. Like, he's in bedrooms and furniture and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, not really met him. Guy from the Midlands, I'm from South. We both got GTRs. Come on, Amma, like, we don't all know each other. And he went, yeah. Amma was like a very unique character. He went, oh yeah. I said, Amma, why do you think I'd know him? Because you're both really funny.
I remember that.
And so when Buzz broke down, I thought I'd reach out to him. And yeah, it was basically the start of our long friendship.
So when did we start talking on Facebook Messenger? What it is at one point me and Rox are arguing over something, and I went all the way through my Facebook Messenger history to find the very beginning, and it turned out Facebook didn't store messages then. So we must have at some point moved over to Facebook Messenger.
Correct.
And that's when the bromance really started kicking off, because we started talking to each other.
Yeah.
I realised like he was quite funny. I was probably funnier then. Not too sure
I'm
now.
not funny. I'm a
And
serious guy.
oh no, his humour is really good. So we hit it off, and we obviously both had GTRs. I managed to get mine fixed.
Yeah.
And I remember the next big memory I have of Rocky is going to Santa Pod, and I had a 4.1 litre engine with stock turbos on the GTR. Now, for anyone who knows GTRs, that is the most ridiculous thing you can do because the stock turbos already spool really quickly.
Yeah.
So I put a 4.1 litre engine, and that made it spool even quicker, and it was totally just pointless. I turned up, I was running fairly decent times on the drag strip, and it was the first time I think you took a GTR on the drag strip, that particular one that you had, is that right?
Correct, yes. So we met up at Santa Pod, and it's quite funny because if you're watching this podcast, I just mentioned earlier how I reached out to him because, he had his username is Buzzy Singh, and I thought it's one of us, but when it is one of us, it generally gets quite spicy in terms of we're very competitive. So when he turned up to Santa Pod, he had this GTR, I had mine. We obviously spoke.
Yeah, I had the wildest tracksuit ever. I remember you came in a full-on tracksuit. So I was wearing jeans and something like jeans on top like I am now. He turned up in a full-on jumpsuit.
Yeah, yeah, probably so. You can probably tell I'm not a really fashionable guy. So we that's where the competitiveness, I think, as far as I can remember, kicked in. It was always...
Face-to-face, it was always like, hello, how you doing, bro? You good? Yeah. What mods are you doing? But really, everything that happened, like every time I told you his mods, I'd write them down. And then I would go to my tuner and be like, look, listen, this is the specification I need, but one up. And it then kind of like, it did actually, remember that? When I was quicker than you became quicker than me. And it was just literally like we were one-upping each other.
We bounced back quite a lot. And the friendship just, we both love cars, as you can probably tell from the channel. So we shared a common interest that was constantly engaging us in conversation. So we were talking about, progressing our cars, next events, how we tend to go faster. And this relationship was obviously getting quite strong. We had a lot in common, especially with our backgrounds. And so I remember this particular occasion when Buzz got married, and it really upset me. Not by the marriage, but he was on his honeymoon, and there was an event on called 10 of the Best, which we were entering. And Buzz could not be at this event because he was on his honeymoon. So he instructed JM Imports, Jürgen and team, to modify his car secretly from me and take it to JM Imports, take it to 10 of the Best and compete on track. So there's me all relaxed thinking, Buzz is away, he's not going to be there. The JM Imports team, it was Aaron that was driving it at the time, I still remember. He's not going to be very competitive, so yeah, I've got this. So he wasn't there, but he was constantly messaging me from his honeymoon saying, has my car run yet? What time is it run? And I was like, Buzz, you haven't changed anything in your car since we were running out a couple of months ago. So yeah, you pretty much know what to expect. And he didn't tell me anything. All of a sudden, I lined up on the runway against his car. Aaron was driving it, and it absolutely obliterated me. And I came back really upset to the pits, and I said to Jürgen, you built my car, you built his car. His spec is nowhere near my spec. Well, I would say nowhere near, but I've gone over and beyond with my spec. How the hell has his car gone faster than mine? And Jürgen says, oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, I wasn't supposed to tell you, but Buzz bought some turbos last week. He bought some extra fuel pumps and asked us to modify his system last week, all for this event. He couldn't be here, but his primary objective was to smoke you. And he done it. So it annoyed me.
I didn't do it. Technically, Aaron did it. But so to get me back, whilst I was on my honeymoon, this guy was relentless to the point he was just sending me abusive messages to the point I wasn't sure if he was actually my friend anymore or not. And in the end, Ban had to message him and be like, can you leave Buzz alone? He's actually getting upset. And then he did. He realised, like, look, I'm only messing. But I think now he's admitted, this is the first time he's ever admitted on this podcast he was genuinely upset. To this day, he's always said, nah, Buzz. Of course, we're bros. We never be upset with each other.
We made this pact when we first got to know each other pretty well, that we discuss things and we won't hide shit from each other. And all of a sudden, this guy's buying some secret turbos and whatnot.
I think that was the first mark. No, we made the pact after. The pact was after because before this, there was still a bit of competitiveness. We went, look, listen, we are bros before anything else, so there's no reason to hide anything. If anything, it might help each other.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
after that, there was case. And there's been a few instances where one of us may have forgotten to tell the other about something, and it might not be related to cars. It might be related to like the type of T-shirt you've just bought. And honestly, we've not spoke for about 3-4 hours, which is quite a lot for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was pretty much it. So
the rest was history then, I guess, right? So
pretty much. So that was the start of our relationship together. It probably became stronger and stronger as we started diving into deeper modifications and just sort of
holding
making
each other's hands, crying together, hugging each other because we spent a lot of money. We broke a lot of stuff. Well, me mainly broke a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Rocky was gifted with having a generally reliable car, but when he did break something whilst racing, it didn't work. And in fact, he ended up spending more money on upgrading. That's where you spend a lot of your money.
Yeah, I believe so. I think
because it's
quite important here that we do cover. We're speaking about rivalry. We're speaking about supporting each other, but. Credit to Buzz, every time there was a new milestone we reached, by milestone I mean breaking into the 10 seconds, breaking into 90, always done it just before me. And that sort of egged me on even further, say, I've got to go quicker. To the point that we ended up at this race event in Dakota, in Cornwall somewhere, those sides. And me and him were ready to run 9-second passes. We're talking about 2015, 2016 here now.
Yeah, that's some time ago.
On street tyres, we're ready to run them. And it was literally a race for us to get into the pits, get race fuel into our cars and run the cars. And it turned out that he beat me to the queue. So I was on his back bumper and he ran just before me. As soon as he ran, I saw the timing screen that he's done a 9. And I was like...
I think that was the first ever 9 at that strip, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And he's done a 9 now. So I'm thinking, damn, all right, he's done it. Rocky, you've got to do this. And he's come around all boosted, all excited. And I shot off straight after him when the track was clear. And I've come around, and I'd also done a 9. So although he'd done it before me, that's how it's always been. Like, whether it's a different event or an event before me, he's always nipped me. Yeah.
So the interesting thing about that is, Rox is right. I was the first to 10s, first to 9 seconds, first to 8s. However, the funny thing here is, and this is the key thing about racing, the quickest time don't always win.
Yeah.
I've always ended up breaking shit.
Yeah.
And you've ended up actually winning some events. So interesting, together, we're undefeatable if you think about it like that.
Pretty much, yeah. So that pretty much summarises how me and Buzz met, and we'll talk a bit more about the journey of where we are today. But yeah, in terms of backgrounds, which a lot of people have asked us, where do you come from, what do you do, and what is your history? And I think that's quite a good question because...
Someone asked which royal family is Rocky from as well.
Yeah, no royal families, fortunately, because they come with a lot of pressure. So it's an interesting question. We don't often get to talk about this sort of stuff of our upbringing, where we come from. So yeah, we thought we'd cover it today. Fire away, Buzz.
Yeah, so don't want to go into too much detail because otherwise we'll be here for about 5 hours, maybe some tears, things like that. So both of us have come from backgrounds where we've not had a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So to keep mine simple, I've got an older sister by 1 year and a younger brother by 3 years. That's G, my sister, brother Harms. From Wolverhampton. Don't know if you can tell from this accent. I have tried to kind of tone it down, but it just starts coming out, so I can't really do much about it. So we lived in a semi-detached house. Mum and Dad didn't really get on. Typical kind of, I would say, brown problems where abusive dad, drinking. We won't go too much into that, but it was a tough thing for us to kind of understand that. Growing up in a world where parents don't get on, but they're your world, they're your idols, and at the same time, there's a lot of pressure that you need to do well. So for me, I always thought I was a little bit different in my kind of outlook, which was there was always a lot of pressure on, no matter where you're from. I never saw myself as different from anyone else, but I felt as though I could do better. So I went to normal primary school. Managed to get into a grammar school, which people pulled me up on.
My wife was really impressed by this.
Yeah, so she found out, and she actually went and did some background research, asking Band whether it was true or not. And when she found out, she turned around and she went, "I can't believe Buzz went to a grammar school. I'm impressed now." Managed to get to grammar school on what we call a scholarship, where normally you need to pay to get in there. But because we came from a background where our family didn't earn a lot of money, in fact, my dad was the only one who worked. I managed to get on something called Governor's Aided Scholarship, where basically there's some sort of like committee where there's some funding and they pay for you to study. So went through school, being a bit of a weirdo, the wild child, I suppose. I wouldn't call myself a black sheep as such.
No.
Tried to fit in with the cool kids. Probably realised, I'm not actually cool. I'm just weird, which in itself is cool. And did all right. I would probably say I wasted some of my academic talent. I was always really good at maths. Roxy's really good at numbers as well. I always, even to this day, I get impressed by his mental arithmetic, and it's something you just need to witness. Because I always think I'm really good at numbers. We are numbers guys. So GCSEs, got an A star in maths, A in the 3 sciences, and then I think English B. I did end up, in fact, I studied Latin. Like, who does that, right? Studied Latin, got a C in that, and I think my worst grade was a D in French. A levels, maths. Funny enough, I got a B, which really, really upset me because I just didn't study. My excuse would probably be I was going through a lot of stuff, but that's not really an excuse at all. And then I went on to uni to study computing science. And this surprises Rox every time, to the point now.
He's good.
He asks me about every single kind of silly IT question, like how do I set a signature on Outlook? I was like, dude, that's not even something you study.
Yeah.
Right? So from that point, a couple of things, key moments, was what first job? Someone once asked that. I was picking strawberries at Essington Farm in Wolves. I did that for about 3 weeks. It was a very interesting job. Your hands get like really kind of like soggy and weird, but it paid the bills, so you've got to do what you've got to do, right? And I think from that point, I didn't finish uni. So a lot of people do ask this. They're like, oh yeah, so have you got a degree? No, I didn't. Unfortunately, my mum passed away in my final year. She actually drank herself to death, and that's a true story. So from liver failure. And I decided at this point, like I kind of went through a period where it was about a week or so where I just kind of recalculated my thoughts of what do I want to do? And I wasn't happy doing what I wanted to do. There was always this pressure of the fact that I went to a grammar school. I was the kind of, the academic child, the one who was on the pedestal, who had to do well. My sister was a bit of a wild one. Maybe one day we'll get her on this channel because Rocky's met her and she's got a lot of time for rocks. And my brother was a bit of a black sheep. And so as I was on this pedestal, I thought, you know what, actually, I only went to uni, picked computing science because I like computers, I'm a bit of a nerd. And I thought, yeah, but I don't want a career in this. So I spoke to my sister and she's like, look, do you want to come make beds and mattresses with me? I was like, no way, I don't want to do that. And I ended up staying in that trade for 10 years, and that's when I came across rocks. So that's a very abbreviated kind of background of what I've done. But, the key things I would say is, people do ask things like, are you self-made? To an extent, yes, because we've never had any money, didn't have no inheritance or anything like that. But at the same time, a lot of people helped me along the way. Rocks is one of them, and I'm always grateful for that. And I think the thing that resonated between me and Rocks, and this is why we got on really well, is his story is kind of similar in the sense that it's not been an easy path. It's been a bit of a struggle. So why don't you tell us a bit about kind of your side, bro?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because, when you see Buzz today, he's a very happy-go-jolly sort of character, very tongue-in-cheek, and a genuine guy that when times get tough, we're talking about business, we're talking about cars, he's always looking at a brighter side, and it's something that really inspires me to sort of carry on, conversing with him about every issue I have in life, because it's very tough going through life and, always trying to find that silver lining to that cloud. And fair play to you, like you've had it tough, and where you are today is quite commendable. With me, like I said, it wasn't too dissimilar. But yeah, I come from a small family. I have an older sister. She's well settled now, lovely 3 kids, married back in the year 2000. And it was just me, myself and I. Unfortunately, my father passed away when I was, I think, 15 years old in 1997. And even prior to that, it's we've had it, we live in a council flat, in a council estate. We're talking 3 stories high, no lifts or anything like that at all. Really raised my hat and, sort of tip it to my mum. Love her to absolute bits, and, there's nothing in the world I wouldn't do for her. She worked damn hard to make sure that her kids had absolutely everything they needed. And this is what I want to sort of emphasize on. We got everything we needed, not everything that we wanted. Yeah. So to this point, like Buzz just mentioned earlier on, that, I'm not really a technophobe. So with technology and stuff like that, it's probably not my baby anymore. We never ever had a games console at home. So there was never TVs in any rooms, right? So when my cousins and stuff used to come over to stay on the weekends on the very odd occasion, would almost be really excited to say they're going to bring their Super Nintendo with them or the Commodore 64 with them, and have a little bit of a playtime with something that we couldn't afford. So yeah, living in these council estate, my mum always focused on disciplining us, making sure that she instills good values now, and they're with me till today. Like we respect our elders, and what have you. So mum worked damn hard. Dad there with her. We moved into Hounslow in 1993. So, there we were in our first house, had a garden to play in. So we never ever had anything sort of handed over to us or me as a person. As I was growing up, I was fortunate enough to see some really well-doing kids around me. We're talking little things like here of, I remember these things because I'm probably rewind back to it now. There was my friends at school that would be wearing shoes like that were made by Kickers back in the day.
Yeah.
And
do you remember US Brass?
Yes.
That's what we had to settle for.
Yeah. So I recall, I don't know why, that those Kickers back in the days used to be about £50 or something like that. And our limit for shoes was something like 10, 12, maybe £15. And there was always that little bit of hunger inside me to say that, I want to do something in my life.
Rockports was another one. I always wished I had a pair of Rockports.
Yeah, exactly. So the Timberlands then came in afterwards. I saw all these nice things going on around me, but, I never ever had any sort of hatred inside me. I always had that little hunger to say that, you know what, I need to do something with my life and make myself more comfortable. And the key thing here was I wanted to land myself on my own feet to help my mum, help the family, help the house. I wanted to stand up because after my father passed away, and seeing my mum doing absolutely everything for her family and her children, she didn't do anything else. This is a woman that's half a woman and half amazing. She just literally dedicated her life to make sure me and my sister had everything. My sister got married, to make sure we had a house, and we're not growing up on a council estate anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she wanted us to have some sort of security. Now, growing up, I thought to myself, I need to start making money. Money was the key thing, right? Seeing my cousins that were older than me, they always had surplus money. They always had money to go and buy themselves a nice jumper, a nice T-shirt, nice trainers. And we never ever had that. We had to always ask our parents, right? This used to normally come with a plan, like to tell our parents, we need to buy these trainers for £50 because they're going to make us run fast or whatever it is. So I started a paper round. So in Hounslow, I started doing a paper round, local newsagent. So I used to wake up in the morning and became obsessed with earning £15 a week. And I remember there used to be a Santander bank. Back then it was called
What was the minimum wage then? Because that makes it relevant as well.
It's difficult to say. If I was to put it into context, I think the average adult then would be earning probably about £1,200 a month.
Okay.
£1,000 to £1,200. We're talking about early 90s here now. £15 a week is all I used to get. And this £15 a week, all it went to, first couple of weeks, I disciplined myself and I said, I want to use this money to invest and whatnot. So I started going to the bank every Friday when I got paid. And it was around the corner, Abbey National, and banking this money. And some of you guys might be too young for this, but we used to have a passbook that you give your money to the bank in and they print out on the Abbey National book what your balance is. And that became an obsession that I want to start saving money. But it didn't last because...
I was going to say that Rocky is not someone I know anymore.
So it didn't last at all. So this paper round then resulted into me getting a job in a phone shop. So, sorry, I rewind back. GCSEs. We don't have GCSEs. So I got some grades ranging from A to all the way to U. I was ungraded, I think, for... Do you know what? This is so funny. I hadn't thought of this. I actually got ungraded for computer studies for IT.
I'm not surprised by that now.
It was a U for that because I attempted to copy someone's project and it didn't go down too well because I simply didn't understand the task. But I decided to take out Punjabi. Punjabi is very important to me. It's our culture, our roots. So I read, write Punjabi as well. So it's always facing a channel.
Sorry, what's Punjabi?
Our mother tongue. I got an A star in that. And they were my grades. So when we had the summer holidays from after GCSEs, I went and done a full-time job. So I didn't go out with any of my friends. I didn't do anything of the sort. I worked for British Airways as a IT support, right? True story. It was pretty simple. And I saved up all my money. And there's a reason behind that. The reason why I saved up all my money is I wanted to be the first person in my year group to drive.
Okay, fair enough.
So my birthday's in September, so I was one of the
eldest
in the year. Yeah. So I was saving because I knew I would never be able to put a case forward to my mum and say I want this much money to go and take driving lessons. I thought, let me get this done, and it's exactly what happened. I saved myself, I got myself a mobile phone, and I was one of the first, guys. One of the first. There was probably a couple of others that had a mobile phone for myself in sixth form when I went back, and I passed my test. And there's a famous story about how I crashed my sister's car. So if those people that were in that car at that time watching this, then yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, I crashed my sister's car without any insurance and ended up injuring one of my friends and his younger brother. But yeah, so I got my driving license. It got revoked from me. Went to court. And it was first 2 years, I said, we're taking your license back off you. And that hurt me. And yeah,
see, I didn't even know that. So I also lost my license. We weren't even going to cover this, but now you mentioned that. Yeah. I did 95 in a 40 zone, and I was driving my sister's car. Funnily enough, it wasn't even my own.
I was driving my sister's car when I crashed it. She was really upset.
So it was raining, and we were driving around somewhere in Birmingham. Got pulled by undercover coppers. Yeah. And not sure I should really admit this, but I spent Easter Sunday in a cell. And I just had to get myself out. So we'll quickly move on to, as you were saying, you lost your license for a bit.
I'm just going to migrate on to something that Buzz will probably jump into now. Is a key question we get asked is, what got you into cars?
Yeah.
And this was it. Like, I've just covered a little bit of it, that as I was young, I always saw these nice things around me. I saw my friends getting dropped off to school in their parents' nice cars.
Yeah.
Constantly buying magazines and watching all these fast car, Max Power magazines at that time, and really drooling over cars. Cars really excited me, and I think it came to me from my dad. My dad was a car guy.
Okay.
He absolutely loved cars, from Lotus Cortinas to Capris. They were his era of cars. And yeah, it always, from a very young age, I remember my mum telling me that, back then we never used to wear seatbelts in the back. So when she used to drive, I used to stand up at the back with my hand on both headrests on the front seats, and I'd be always looking out the window, and she'd be saying, "Sit down, Rocky," and I'm like, "No, I need to see all the cars around you. Like, I need to check everything out." So yeah, from a very young age, I got into cars, which is probably why I wanted to be the first to drive in my year, get myself into a car. But yeah, that's where the car love started.
So for me, it was a bit different because we grew up with nothing, no money. The mad thing is, I didn't even see myself driving. But I managed to convince my dad to get me a car, which we'll come on to. But in terms of what really made me think, actually, you know what, I want to have some sick cars and whatnot, was two things. I used to be a bit of a gaming nerd. The one thing I managed to just kind of argue and get a win for was a gaming console when I was 14. And started playing the Need for Speed games. Do you remember them?
Okay, PlayStation. Well, I used to hear about them.
Yeah. So the Need for Speed game. Bro, you actually saying that, you would have probably been a bit older then. And you're probably like, yeah, I'm too cool for that. So Need for Speed games, and you get things like BMWs. I used to love BMWs then, At the time, the E46 M3 was all the rage. Yeah. So that would probably have been a poster car. But the other thing that cemented it and made me think, I 100% need a fast car, was the Fast and Furious films. When they first came out, I remember watching the first one. We may have even watched it. In fact, I probably didn't watch it at the cinema. I probably had to wait till it came out as a Christmas special or something like that. And watching that just made me think, you know what? I want a Japanese car. And that kind of really ignited the whole car thing. And from then, we ended up getting our cars. So it all started from there. What was your first car?
I was going to ask you the same question, you beat me to it. My first car, I'll pick up from where I left. I smashed my sister's Escort XR3i Cabriolet. Nice. And my sister was always into cars as well. Again, she has the same blood as me, probably from our dad's side. She had this lovely Escort XR3i in red, with a full turbo body kit, everything on it. And this was the car that I always begged to borrow off her and, abuse with my friends every now and again. And I'd beg her every day when she used to drop me to school and go to work. She used to work in Heathrow then. I'd say, Mandy, please let me drop you to work
How much
today.
older is Mandy than you? How many years?
A year and a half. Well, just
and
over
she
a
trusted
year.
you.
Yeah, and she always said to me, you've got to be careful. And I'll admit, I wasn't insured and she still trusted me. So I smashed her XR3i. So I had a lot of love for Fords and these Escorts and RS turbos. So when I got my license back, I was working then. We'll talk about that in a second, about first jobs and stuff. And I came to my mum and I said to my mum, I've seen this car for £2,800. And I said, I need to borrow £2,000 off you. I've got £800 saved up. And my mum said, all right, okay, what car is it? I said, it's a Escort RS Turbo, Cabriolet. It was a black one. We'll put a picture up of it in a second. First car I started modifying. And she went, okay. She heard me out. And she just turned around and said, listen, son, you can also buy cars for £800 that you've got. And she said, look, it's not about the money, but, you're now working. So you've transitioned from a boy to a man. So, No, is the answer.
So what do you end up doing?
Yeah, so I got really upset, started getting angry, throwing my toys out my pram. I pay the bills now, I contribute towards the house.
Yeah.
You know, you can't even do this for me.
Did she slap you? Did she slap you?
No, not at all. And then my sister, she was always like my mini mother, if you like, you know, saying, Rocky, you know, you've got to calm down, you can't be like this all the time. Then something happened, and until this day, I don't know what the truth is, and if my sister's watching, she can maybe confirm this, that my mum saw me sulking, and she probably felt a little bit bad that, you know, I am hungry for success, and I'm trying to work hard. And I feel till this day that my mum secretly gave the money to my sister to loan it to me.
Okay.
Because my mum didn't want to give in. She didn't
want to lose face and say, actually, here you go. So instead, she didn't smart.
So I feel that. But either way, my sister lent me the money. And I went out and bought my first Ford Escort Cabriolet. It was fully black with a Recaro interior, RS Turbo body kit, with a cream roof. So if you remember me from the days, it had a beige leather roof on that car. And that's
so extra for a first car, bro.
I know, it was my absolute baby. I lived for that car, and the modifying journey started. So, your first car?
So mine was an interesting one. Our dad would actually, I remember this as a kid, and you know what, I wasn't even thinking about this earlier, would buy cars that were battered and fix them up. And when I say fix them up, the car stood on our driveways for about 3-4 years and nothing ever happened from them. Okay. Saying that, my wife might say that we share similarities where I start something and don't finish it in the house. So the car was, one day I was talking to my dad, and I was like, look, I really would like a car. It'd be nice to be able to go to school because I was in sixth form. And he was just like, you're not getting a car. Like, how, what do you think? Money grows on trees. And I was like, well, if I wasn't at school, I'd have time to go get a job, a proper job, full-time job, and buy a car. And I think that made him worried and think, you know what, this idiot is going to drop out of school to try and do something like this. So he bought me it was for £550, is what he says, a black Fiat Punto, it was an N-Reg. And that car in itself, it was nothing special, but to me, it was like awesome. There was a bit of a story where I started driving it before I got my license. And I even drove on the day of my test. I drove to school, told the teachers, I've got my license for a license test. Went and drove. No, I had my instructor pick me up from school, so it wasn't suspicious. Passed my test, dropped me off, and told the teachers, I passed my test. Everyone was happy. And then as I was pulling out of the car, the form tutor just looked at me and went, Buzz, how did you get to school today if your test was early today? And I had to come up with some mad story. I don't even remember what it was. It came out with some mad excuse. I got away with it and just carried on. Now, the mad thing is, I said got away with it like they were the police. Like, do you ever remember that at school, thinking that your teachers were like more important than the police?
Respect your teachers, by the way.
Yeah. So that car, it didn't really end well. What happened was my sister borrowed it, and she had a light accident with it. And it's one of those things, when you have something nice and someone breaks it or damages it, if you have a camera, you scratch it. I don't know why I've used that example. I don't have any cameras, but something like that, and you suddenly, it's like you lose a bit of love for it. You're thinking, it's damaged goods. Well, that kind of happened with my car, and I'm saying this to build up as to what happened after that. It was snowing, a bit of ice. Been watching too many Fast and Furious films. Thought I'd drift into my driveway, and so
outside your house, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm coming down like this. My house is 90 degrees. To be honest, this is no different to how I drive. As I'm driving, I thought, I'm going to turn into driving slide in. Well, I need to do a 90-degree turn. So I've done this. I've literally gone bang and gone to our house wall. Not house wall, but outside, kind of like brick wall. Bonnet was smashed. And we're going to finish off on the end of this car. Two things. I was driving to Sheffield University for an interview, because they normally do that before you go to uni. And as I was driving there, the bonnet was already crumpled on the car. And we'll probably get a picture. I'm going to find a picture for you guys. It was already crumpled. It flew up as I was driving on the motorway, smashed the windscreen. And I'm not sure whether it happened, but in my head, I felt as though I spun around and it ended up in the hard shoulder. As this happened, I just parked the car. I was told, do not move it from the hard shoulder. Keep it there. You do not know how scary it is having a car in the hard shoulder. Like, we've had a few breakdowns and whatnot, and you pull up right into the what is it called? What's the left side called?
The hard shoulder.
The hard shoulder. So I didn't break up in the hard shoulder. I broke up in the fast lane.
Oh, okay.
So, bro, this is a fast lane. I'm so glad I asked that. Broke down. all you hear is vibrations, cars coming past. And I'm like, listen, I need to get out. They're like, no, don't get out. Anyway, somehow managed to get the car towed, fixed what we could, and I got the windscreen replaced, and I still carried on driving the car, right? Got pulled over once by the police going, you can't have a bonnet strapped down. And they gave me, like, you get a little ticket, you know, we need to get a car MOT'd. And I was driving one day from a school break, went for food, and literally the engine died. So you know how I told you that the GTR was the first engine I blew? I've just realised that is not true, and this actually started from a young age of blowing up engines.
So you've been killing engines from day dot.
You know what? Now that I'm so glad we've done this podcast, because it's actually made me realise that every time I blow up an engine, it was just meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
And you know, that's a bit of... It's an interesting one, because I always thought that I was like really mechanically sympathetic, but evidently not.
All right, so going on from that, Buzz, and give us a little lowdown about the cars you've had. Car
Okay,
history.
so...
Because a lot of people want to know.
Yeah, so some people might think, like, I've had a load of fast cars, but ever since social media blew up, you've probably not seen a lot, and probably think, oh, maybe I had loads before. No, I didn't. So the key ones in this is we had the Punto, had a Volkswagen Polo, and it was purple. My sister gifted it to my mum, but I ended up using it all the time, wasn't insured. By the way, guys, don't follow anything that we do. That's not like, just don't try and replicate it.
No.
Didn't get caught, had a good run with that. I think on top of that, the key milestone for me was getting a BMW 335D.
Okay.
This was whilst I was working, professional guy. I was doing really well. I thought, you know what, I think I deserve a company car. I mean, I'm working probably, 80 hours a week. That's considered part-time today's standards now.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. 335D special edition, sick rims. And I never actually modified this. I put a little wing on, but didn't do much with it. And then the key milestone after that was getting my Nissan GTR. So that was 8 or 9 years ago now.
I can imagine, yeah.
So long time ago. That was for me the big milestone, because with the Fast and Furious films, the first film that came out, the R34 Skyline, is in that film, isn't it?
Correct, yeah.
And there's a whole kind of Japanese car theme. And in my head, I knew I couldn't afford a Lamborghini or a supercar. So I thought, you know what, I'm never going to afford a supercar. What's the best next thing? You know what, let's find cars that will beat supercars, because at least it can kind of be the underdog. And that's when Japanese cars came in. So R34 was a poster child. At the time, they were 15 grand, 20 grand. And we'll come to Rockies. And the mad thing is that, I forced him to sell it. And I'm thinking, well, hold on, it was your dream car. How could you do this to him? But we won't go into all that. And so we had the GTR, the R35. So as I went to uni, the change kind of, I think the R35 had just coming out, it would have been for me, which would have been 2007 and 8.
Yeah.
We were talking about the R35. I realised that as soon as I finished uni and I was able to afford a nice car, a really nice car, GTR's a supercar killer, not a supercar. The GTR R35 came out, and I realised I couldn't buy an R34 because suddenly they were 50 grand. Then the bad thing is, you're probably thinking, well, hold on, that's a similar price to what the R35 was. But you couldn't get finance an R34 because they were over 10 years old.
Correct.
So with this car, I got it on finance, never bought it out cash, couldn't afford that. And from that point, the other key cars, we won't go into it too much, was I bought a Audi R8 as my GTR kept blowing up, and I was really upset that it was off the road.
I want to interrupt you though, it's a V10 Plus, so it was not a normal R8.
Yeah, it wasn't. But what happened was the day I bought it, do you remember how you started bombarding me with like, congratulations on your sports car? And I was like, bro, it's a supercar. And he's like, don't think it is, mate. And he didn't call me mate, because if he called me mate, we'd have kicked off. We've got this thing, we're not mates, we're brothers. So he just kind of bombarded me for the first 3 days going, it's not a supercar. Knowing it wound me up, and I knew that, but it still upset me.
Well, you made a post saying, I'm proud moment, I got my first supercar. So how about we do this, right? So how about we get these guys to comment in there? Who's with me?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
I said to him, congratulations, it's a sports car. Now I get it. It's a mid-engined.
It is a supercar. Top Gear call it a supercar. It's Audi supercar.
I don't care about Top Gear. Top Gear is, they say all sorts. But yeah, let us know. Do you think the R8 is a supercar? Because the technical answer to it probably is yes, but I don't feel it is. So I wasn't mocking you. But
so I feel it is. And the only reason I say that is because I had one. He's never had one. But saying that, when I took you out for a spin, what was your thoughts after I drove it around? It sounds awesome.
What a car.
So the next other cars that were kind of like key ones was I did have a Nissan Micra. I bought that as a bit of banter. It was green. That was £500.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I had, here's a good one. So, good friend of ours, Richard Wheeler, probably one of the richest guys we know.
100%, not
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. At the time, we were doing a bit of racing. We'll go into that in another part of the podcast.
Yeah.
He jokingly said, if I buy this car, Buzz, will you drive it? and we ended up calling it the Thunderbirds car, but it was a Thunderbirds Vauxhall Astra, marked basically a Vauxhall Astra with a. It wasn't a body kit because it was some custom fabricated stuff.
It was insane. There's probably going to be a picture up here for these guys to see.
Find a picture.
It was ridiculous.
I drove that around for 3 months, and that was pretty cool. And then obviously the other key car in all of this is the Lamborghini that I currently have. But I'm sure you've got a big collection. I know there's cars that I've missed out there, but I'm sure you'd probably have to think really hard.
With cars, because there's always a passion, there's a little bit about, we'll come on to about what we do for a living. So trading cars was one of my side hustles.
Yeah, okay.
So it was a case of, having your cake and eating it. So get to enjoy the cars, but make a bit of money at the same time. But yeah, that came on way later in my life. From this Escort RS Turbo I had, I migrated very slowly into Cosworths. But I remember having a Cosy, a Sapphire, a 4x4 back then that I couldn't insure. So I managed to buy this car. I could never insure it because of my age. Okay. So we drove around without insurance, right?
Do not do this.
Yeah, not the right thing to do. But anyway, we went through some Cosys, a number of them. Then, BMWs caught my eye. So I started falling in love with the E36.
Okay.
And a lot of people will probably go back into my Facebook and see some E36 that I built, Techno Violet, Indigo Blue. I actually bought these cars absolutely standard and started applying some body kits to them, 80 Schnitzer wheels, coilover suspensions, xenon lights, this sort of stuff. And I loved them. They were like my moment for me to say, yeah, I've made it in life now. I've got a couple of BMWs. I've got a couple of VR6s. So Golf's got my attention then. My wife, by the way, when I met her, she used to drive a Golf. Golf Mark III. It was a Golf GTI. And so I knew she always loved Golfs and she had a bit of a passion for them. So as I met her, we started getting into Golfs and Golf Mark III VR6s. From there, we transitioned into some Japanese cars, GTRs. From GTRs now into Lamborghinis. Now, I could probably talk about this for another half an hour, about all the journey going through to these cars. But at this precise moment, we've got the R35 GTR. Which,
and you still got that, obviously.
Yeah, it's half and half purple and green, dedicated to Buzz, and his beast of a car. Still got my R33 GTR, Rips RB30. What a GTR that is, and it will be coming up for sale again in the future after he forced me to sell my 34. I got my Lamborghini Aventador, the S, that I bought for my 40th birthday. Was a bit of a milestone. Got my Lamborghini Performante, which we're twin turboing soon, and and a Vauxhall Astra.
So I'm feeling like I should quit this podcast because when you hear his cars, it's just like, what? How is it even
cars,
comparable? Yeah. But it's been a journey though. The thing that I've really enjoyed is the past few cars that Rox has mentioned is I've been there. And in fairness, whenever he's been like, I don't think I should be doing this, part of me made me think, just whisper in his ear, no, bro, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
We kind of get it done. So here's a question because we're coming on to it anyway. And I've forgotten what it is. I've just remembered now. What car have you regretted selling, if any? Someone else asked that. About 5 people asked that.
Yeah, a few people did, and I've had a long, hard think about this. I'm going to say that with all the cars that I have, I'm really, really fortunate to have them all together. So it's been a bit of an experience for me. But there was just one car that stood out throughout my whole collection. You guys will probably see loads on the ground that a lot of my friends drive my cars around. And partly the reason for that is that I'm passionate about cars, but I'm not possessive over them. I grew up with nothing. And we used to love people letting us sit in their cars. So when one of my friends asked me, Rocky, you're lucky, can I drive this car? Can I? Absolutely, I'll pass the keys over, provided they're not going to kill themselves and they're mature enough. So a few of my friends managed to have some experience in my R34 GTR. Buzz actually went with me to buy that car, and he knew what it meant to me. Bayside Blue, it was an awesome spec car. He got to experience it. A load of my friends drove that car and always said to me, Rocky, never ever sell this car. And that was the plan, to never sell the car.
I said the same. So I was like, this car is goals, dream car achieved. But then the market went crazy.
The market went silly, and I've got to say the money I was getting offered for that car, it did start making me think. I said it never would, and the boss was constantly on the phone to me saying to me, mate, you didn't buy it for money.
Let's talk value. So he hasn't tried to sell his car. He's tried to sell his car actually a few times.
Yeah.
So remember when prices went to 90k?
Yeah.
He started talking with me and I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money. Yeah. Even I was like, no, let's keep it then.
Yeah.
Then it went to, is it 110?
Yeah. Buzz had a deal for me and he said to me, one of his friends, Julian at that time, wanted to buy the car. And he phoned me and said, Rocky, do you want to sell it? I said, no. I said, do you know what? 80 grand, I'll think about it. And he phones me back and says, Rocky, done. We're going to get. I said, no, I can't. So I bought it and walked out. Then the magic number became 100 grand. Then people started chasing me saying, okay, 100 grand will come tomorrow. Then I backed out again. I was like,
then he started thinking, you know what? So many people are saying yes, it's got to be worth more. Yes or no, right?
Then I started getting offered 100, 120, 125, and I thought to myself, this is insane.
You nearly committed at 120 something.
125. I sort of committed to 125, and backed out. Yeah, reversed back out again. And then we're standing at some race event. I think it was JM Race Wars. Me, Jürgen, and Buzz standing there. And
we had some sort of promise.
Somebody asked me, like, Rocky, would you sell your R34? And he dived in and said, yes, he will. We've got to sell it. We've got to sell that car. It's got to go now. He doesn't even drive it. Other people drive it and all the rest of it. And I was like, no. I said, all right, Buzz, do you know what? If I get 150 grand for it, it's gone. He said, no, you'll back out. I said, no, if I got 150 for it, the car's gone. And he made me shake his hand. It's on camera somewhere. He made me shake his hand and he said, Jürgen, put the car up for sale. If he backs out of this now, me and him are over.
Yeah, we did. And we have been known to make such deals where it's the silliest of a deal, but we go through with it.
Yeah. So that's the only car. I don't regret selling it. It does upset me sometimes, but following influencers like Buzz in my life, he transitioned into the Lamborghini scene. And the only way I could afford to get a Lamborghini was to sell one of the cars and go and get it.
So it kind of paved out.
Yeah.
Your story is kind of similar to mine.
Yeah.
It's not at all. So my regret was it wasn't regretting selling a car because I've not been fortunate enough to have loads of cars, like a fleet of them, like Rox does. However, for me it was the R8. Now people are like, well, why would you regret selling the R8? Because the Lambo is a V10, same chassis, very very similar. My regret was actually a bit of a personal one. I quit what I was doing, where I was earning good money, to pursue this kind of another venture. And I remember at one point, Rock said, "Buzz, when you quit doing what you're doing, come talk to me." That was all he said. I don't even know what that means now. Like that could have just meant something like, "Oh, when you're unhappy with what you're doing, come talk to me." That was it. Not quit, because I didn't quit. That could have just meant he was giving me some motivational advice, but what do? I quit what I was doing, and I was like, Rox, I don't have a job now. So I still had the R8 here. That was finance as well, because I just don't have a lot of money. He's the last, we do okay. Right. And the thing for me, the big thing that I regretted coming onto this was, it was a bittersweet moment. I had to sell it in order to get funds to start a business, business in furniture manufacturing, bespoke fit wardrobes. And for me, it was one of those where you knew you're doing it for the right thing, right? There's a lot of things you have to do where sometimes it's not the thing you would do in an ideal situation, but you knew it was for the best interest of your family. And as I've grown up and matured, and he'll be laughing about this, is think, oh, Buzz, so you are grown up, is you start realizing that there's more to life than just kind of short-term happiness. And one of those, you got to start thinking about your family. For me, that wasn't even a thing until I got married. Now we've got kids as well, so it was a little bit of a bittersweet moment. But do I regret it? Yes, but it happened for the right reason. So at the same time, I don't. If that makes sense, does that make sense?
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah. Out of our backgrounds, we totally forgot to plug our wives. The ladies that do everything for us. We spoke about all the transition from school, education, cars.
We did that in an earlier video.
Yeah. We're both happily married. Love our wife to bits.
They are our backbones, believe it or not. But what they don't realise is we are each other's backbones as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just made me think about this, actually talking about regrets and whatnot. Well, how about dream car?
So,
what's your dream car then? Because I'm sure a lot of people want to know that. We've been asked that quite a few times as well.
I've got to admit that every time I bought a car that you guys see on Instagram now, it's a moment inside my heart. I almost want to go and stand in front of my mum and say, "Mum, I made it. It's done. My dream's achieved. My dream's achieved." But then naturally, as you know, and I know you, we keep pushing ourselves, and we keep pushing ourselves because we want everything we couldn't ever have, and we didn't imagine we could have. So it's a very difficult question for me. Like, my dream car right now would have been, Hurricane Performante, but it's done. Do I stop? No, I don't. Then I said I want another Lamborghini for my 40th birthday. Done. And I couldn't afford an SVJ, by the way, and he holds me up to that all the time. And he says, "Oh, you got a
2 Lambos, but you didn't get an SVJ. Come on, bro."
So I couldn't afford that. So right now, I don't think I'll call the SVJ my dream car. My dream car goal will change, but at this precise moment, when I am going to sleep at night and I open Auto Trade on my phone, I'm looking at McLaren 765 LTs.
Oh, wow. Okay, I did not expect that.
I've been looking at them for a little while.
They are sick cars. They are sick cars. You know what? We need to get in one. I've not been in a 765 LT or even a 720. In fact, I've been in 720S.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
He came close to buying one a few times.
Yes.
A few times that Buzz, I think the deal's done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you ask me, so the thing that's mad about this is, and I think some people appreciate this, we came from nothing. So my dream car was at one point, it was actually something like it was a Honda Civic Type R. You know, this was when I was like 17. But your goals change, right?
Yeah.
And you get comfortable with your life, but then suddenly you start getting a bit hungry, thinking, you know what, I want that next step. What's that next step? So for me, it actually went, my dream car was the R34. Then it went to the R35 because that came out like, oh my God, it's so amazing, it had loads of great reviews. Then it wasn't an R8, and R8 was never a dream car. It was always a Lamborghini Huracan because I knew I could never afford an Aventador. So in some ways they say, well, hold on, your dream car should be something that is out of reach. But to be fair, with me, my mindset has always been, make your dream car something that you're going to work to get. Yeah. And it became a Huracan. I couldn't afford it, so I bought an R8. Sold it, and then 2.5, 3 years later, managed to afford a Huracan. Then actually, this sounds crazy, I was never all hyped about an Aventador based on the things that I'd heard about the gearboxes. We've experienced it. They're nowhere near as fast as the DCT on a Huracan. So then my dream was, I wish one day I could twin turbo a Huracan. That's goals. I will never do that because I could just barely afford to mod my GTR. And that was running, 1450 wheel. And then somehow I managed to twin turbo, and I've got now Europe's quickest Huracan. So if you were to say to me, hold on, Buzz, okay, well, what is your dream car? In my eyes, like I said to you, it's something that you should be able to make a plan and achieve it. It is an Aventador SVJ. Okay. And now, we've got an Aventador now. So. Yeah, we have. So when Rox buys the SVJ, it's going to have to change because the way I see it is whatever he buys is mine. Yeah, 100%. And, 100%. He's the only guy who I would literally say, take any car I have, GTR with the Lambo, no matter what. He's not necessarily built that twin turbo Huracan that I have, but and it's a lot quicker than a stock one. Yes, which I'm sure there's a video going around somewhere. Yeah. We share everything in that respect, so that's pretty cool, I guess. Yeah. So fair shout on that, but we'll get an SVJ soon. Talking about affordability and stuff, like we mentioned it a few times, that we are very fortunate to be where we are, and a lot of people do message and say, "What do you do for a living?" Yeah. Now, we're no inspirations to anyone. I'd like to think that if there's one or two souls out there that do look at our story and think that hard work and graft and outrageous ambitions, get you somewhere, then yeah, by all means, keep pushing yourself. But for a living, get artists all the time. There's a couple of businesses that I'm involved in myself. Won't talk too much about them just yet. Maybe do another episode soon. I think so, possibly, about exactly what we do. Involved in furniture, fitted bespoke bedroom furniture. Likewise as Buzz. Working it together now. So with side hustles, I mentioned earlier on, I am quite keen sometimes I'm a sucker for a good deal. When someone's got a good deal out there. In fact, I've just bought another car for a good deal about 20 minutes ago. It's not for myself, but it's for a flipper. It's to give away on Superstar Comps, by the way. Hi guys, Rocky from Superstar Comps, and check out our latest competition for this beautiful stealth black A45 AMG. 2014 with a factory carbon aero kit. You've got the lower splitter, the back spoiler, and the uprated 19-inch AMG wheels. The car is black, but wrapped in a satin black finish, and it looks absolutely stunning. Mercedes Carbon Aero with a rear wing, awesome rear diffuser, and look how stealth it looks. Could be yours for only £9.95, but you've got to be quick. Entries are limited, and it's a guaranteed draw on the 2nd of January at 9 p.m. Don't miss out. Click on the link below and get your entries in now. AMG bucket seats, carbon interior trim, and Harman Kardon. What is there not to like? Get your entries in now. The live draw is on the 2nd of January. It's a guaranteed draw, so don't miss out. We are drawing this car regardless of sellout. That's another one of my businesses. Which I've got involved in recently.
Yeah, so Superstar Comps was started by myself and my good friend, almost like family, Bali. And Bali's now living with the Arabs and the Sheikhs in Dubai. Yeah. So Buzz has now joined Team Superstar as well. So that's another one of my businesses. And the side hustle. So yeah, there's always a lot going on in my life. There are a couple of businesses. There's some people involved in my life that back up for money. So money, we'll call them the money guys.
The money men.
Yeah, the money men. And yeah, so some silent partners involved, which again we'll cover in a lot more detail. But for a living, yeah, absolutely. I work 6 days a week, likewise as Buzz. And I say 6 days because we don't actually ever switch off. Because
I was going to say that.
Even on
Like
the seventh day, we're constantly communicating and thinking about work, right?
So Rock said to me this one thing. This was before we properly got cemented in terms of work-wise, which is I never work Sundays. Sunday's family day. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, we do try and stick to it. But honestly, there's been times where we've had to do a lot of stuff on Sundays. So the key thing is we're working around the clock and we don't switch off. Yeah. There'll be times that you message me late at night about Buzz, I've just had this brainwave. Or vice versa. Or first thing in the morning, we're talking about like 4 or 5 o'clock. Yeah, but I mean, I've got to reiterate again, like a lot of the stuff that we do, whether it's business, whether it's side hustles, whatnot, we're only able to do them because our homes are held together by our good wives, right? Yeah. So we go back and, you know, everything is down to them. Like even the cars that I've had, like Gov has never ever asked me, what did you pay for that? How did you get that? She's just a total supporter. She's a car girl herself, and she doesn't drive them. My wife has never ever been in my Aventador. I don't think she's been in the GTR since she's been pushing big power. So all these big cars, she went in the Performante once. Oh, that was it. Van went in, I think, my Lambo once. That was when it was stock, when she doesn't want to go again.
So so we do get allowed to do this, but that allows us to constantly focus on what we're doing all the time. And, you know, that's my story done, but Buzz's got a lot more to tell because he's got a global business and he's also got some crypto advice.
Oh my God. So first of all,
he's
guys,
actually a crypto king.
Ignore all this. I'm tired of people.
For me with crypto earnings.
I don't believe any of that. I'm tired of people messing about crypto. It was a bit of a joke. I've lost about 30 grand this year. So stop messing me for advice. If you want advice on how to lose money, I can help. Yeah. So just the other thing is touching on kind of what we do. Key thing is our wives are supportive. So Ban, when I wanted the Lambo, she just turned around to me, our bill's going to get paid? And I said, yeah, they are. My Lambo, there's nothing hiding about it. The finance on it is more than what my mortgage is. And it's a bit of a silly thing to do, but you only live once. So she was very supportive of that. And that's what I love her for. In terms of businesses, one thing is I'm the janitor of a company called Draggy. Yeah. So that, you know, that does okay. I can't really complain about that. I also, as I said, work with Rocks and Superstar Comps. And a key thing a lot of our businesses is we've got the bespoke fitted furniture and we've got partners who, you know, you probably hear about them later on. And that's a key thing. I think there's another thing that I want to cover in terms of what we do is if we see a deal, we've bought things together, we've bought cars, we've bought GTRs and sold them together. And it's always kind of worked well. If we think we can make money from it, we'll do it.
Yeah, so I wanted to pick up on what you said because you mentioned it a couple of times now and it just skimmed through my head. When you mentioned your cars on finance and, you know, sometimes the repayments monthly can outweigh your mortgage. And a lot of people do tend to wonder, are my cars on finance and whatnot? And I don't want to hide this because my Lamborghini Aventador is on finance. Yeah. And, you know, so I didn't want this to come across in the podcast that Buzz's car's on finance and mine are not. So, yeah, my cars are on finance, but, you know, it's an enjoyable journey. It makes you work harder because you've got to make sure you've got to keep up with everything. And, so it is...
Saying that, like, on the other hand, is my Huracan is on finance. I've spent more on modifying the Huracan than what the finance is outstanding. So, absolutely. You know, I did that with the GTR. The mad thing is GTR spent well over 6 figures on it when the finance was still outstanding. So you've got to live within your means, right?
Of course. So just trying to wrap this up now, Buzz, because when we put this little question up on Instagram and on our YouTube community, that what questions you want us to answer in the podcast, we were inundated with so many questions. So we did decide to do carry on with the podcast. And these questions and bullet points that we've covered so far were the most common ones that were asked. Yeah, man. But we do want to respect and appreciate all the other questions that were asked and we want to address them. But there'll be a Q&A that we'll do soon, right? We're going to have a bit of fun. We won't sit in a room.
We've seen some very funny questions. We couldn't answer them because there's so many of them. So
we'll be here for 5 hours and we don't expect you guys to watch it for 5 hours. So let us know. So get into the comment section. We're not going to look at Buzz's Instagram or my Instagram or the YouTube community posts that we made. If there's questions that you think you still want to ask and we haven't covered them, we're going to be doing a quick Q&A episode, but we're only going to be answering questions from this video comments.
You must comment on this video because we've just got too many questions. We can't keep them going. We're unorganised. It is what it is.
It is. And finally, just to wrap up then,
we had some
comments.
This is the big one.
Yeah, we had some comments saying, finally, you guys are on YouTube. Then we had some comments saying, why bother? Why YouTube? So...
I know one of the key factors for me was...
Yeah, and for Buzz, he's got a key factor. I've got a key factor that I just want to copy everything he does in life, and so I agreed with it. But yeah, we've taken on to YouTube now purely and simply because Buzz's key point that he has got to talk to you about in a minute was a very, very good point to start documenting what we do. And secondly, it was for a bit of fun, right? We had to invest in a manager. He's behind the camera right now. He's taking care of a lot of our media for our other businesses.
That's right.
And promoting that. And we want to make sure there never, ever is a downtime, because being two Asian lads that are hungry for success in business, why pay someone and let them sit free, right? So we said, film us and document everything that we do for a YouTube channel. Yeah. But the key point you had, I'm going to let you carry on that.
So some of you may know, we haven't actually even mentioned it, but it's kind of like a given, is my GTR set on fire earlier this year and I lost it. And it was a really, really kind of tough obstacle for me to get past. And with everything that happened, I got loads of pictures, videos at events and things like that, but I never really documented kind of what we did, the really fun times that we had, the mad events we went to. There was no like reactions of me enjoying the moment, if that makes sense.
And that you had a lot of history with that car.
A lot of history. So that was the car that when I bought it, that was the reason that made me work harder. You know, when I blew an engine, I needed to come up with 20 grand to buy another engine. And it was like, well, how can I work harder? What can I do? You know what? At the time, I didn't have multiple streams of income. It was just that one job. So I had to figure out, how do I climb up higher up in the chain? What can I do for the business to be worth more? And from that point, it almost like, it sounds crazy. You get into such a debt in terms of you need to pay for a new engine, more mods, that you end up working harder and making things work. So for a big thing for me was, why don't we document everything that we do? And, you know, we've lost some good friends of ours over the past few years to, you know, various things. And I thought, you only live once. Sounded like I was going to cry then and get all emotional, but I don't think I was. You only live once. So, you know, yeah, but I was mad drunk. So, you know, you only live once. Why not capture everything? You know, it'd be something nice for your kids to see, especially, you know, we've got young kids, as they grow up and be like, you know, when we're actually losers and we're not cool at all and we're boring, and when they turn around and say, why are you so boring? And we're like, what are you on about? Do you know who we were? We were famous YouTubers. So that's a bit of tongue in cheek. But the other thing on top of that, Rox, is we keep getting asked questions of, how did you do this mod? What happened there? Can you give us a bit more information? Can you send me videos? Can you get me a spec of this? You know, what made you do this? And honestly, these are genuine questions from people who are close to us, some people who we don't even know. And I'm not saying we're just going to reply and say, why don't you watch our channel? But honestly, we're hoping by the content that we create, it's pretty watchable. We say, look, guys, we spoke about it a bit more in our channel. We can't repeat everything. We're busy, guys. What we're finding is, with our businesses that we work on, businesses that we own, we're just not getting the time to really be able to spend, you know, that quality time talking to people. And, you know, I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but honestly, we get a lot of messages. So we thought,
it is quite distracting,
you know, it is. And to the point, you almost feel bad. Whereas wouldn't it be nice to say, hey guys, we did cover that recently. And if you haven't, of course, we'll spend time explaining it, right?
Of course. And I'm going to sort of summarize and wrap up now and thank each and every one of you that have watched this podcast, because you guys are the supporters that made our channel blow up to something that we didn't expect to in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. Now, it was a bit of entertainment fun. Like I said, we want to document what we do, and we had the opportunity to do so. But the feedback that we've had is honestly, it's heartwarming, and we genuinely appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to see more about me and Buzz, what we do, let us know in the comments. Make sure that if there's any questions that are left unanswered and you want to know a bit more about anything that we do, put it in the comments in this video now. And finally, like Buzz just said about costs, for the mods that we do and the specs that we do, do you guys want to see videos of us solely reviewing our own cars with costs? Because there's people out there that want to twin turbo a Hurricane and don't know what the costs associated are. Same with GTRs and you know, whatever have you. So if you want to see that, put it in the comment section. But be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to turn the notifications on, because there's some epic videos coming out now. We're not always going to sit on a sofa and on a poverty chair to talk to you about what we do. But yeah, really appreciate your support. Make sure you're subscribed, notifications on, and genuinely thank you so much for the support you've given us.